VTubers, am I right? We all know the big VTuber corporations like Hololive and Niji Sanji. We've all heard of the big indies like Bao or Shy Lily. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But that's really only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to VTubing. And I kind of want to go into more detail on these other like subgroups. Let me sort of explore the depths of the VTuber community, and maybe you can find some new talents or just know what you're looking for and what you want to see more of. At the very tip of the iceberg, where we've got the VTuber corporations and the big indies, like one layer below that are these sort of like informal corporations. Like the VShojo girls before they became VShojo, before they joined that company, they already felt like a kind of informal corporation because they hung out a lot, they collabed a lot, like they were kind of part of one big family. That's why VShojo was born, is because they were already one big family. And then of course, one of my favorites is Takahata's Bar.
Hi everybody, welcome to my very tame and non-sexual VTuber stream.
We are not horny on main.
Literally, I have plenty of horns for everyone.
That is true.
What I like about informal corporations, or just these really big friend groups of VTubers, is it's a lot more relaxed, it's a lot more friendly. People come and go as they please. There doesn't need to be a big debut or a big graduation every time someone comes or goes. And I feel like a lot of the interactions in these informal corporations are just a lot more authentic. If I see Gura and Kiara collab, sure, it's extremely entertaining.
Gura, did you know that you're cute? I did!
And they are probably friends in real life, but they were still brought together by the corporation, not a mutual friendship that naturally brought them together. And no matter how good their interactions are, I feel like there's just a deeper level of chemistry when you're talking about people who became friends naturally and are interacting without a manager present, without that filter, without that coerced politeness. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like when it comes to these VTuber groups that aren't really groups, they're just sort of a bunch of friends, you get interactions between like Taka and Mim, and you can just feel every time that they're on screen that they just have such great chemistry. They have so many funny moments. When they hang out, it feels like you're just watching friends hang out.
Ma'am, I want you to hold on to me.
Okay, okay, thank you for the warning. All right, here we go.
Oh my god! Ah, man, wow.
Whoa.
Yeah, man, pretty crazy.
The second layer to this VTuber iceberg, the VTuber FleshTuber duos. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you get an IRL streamer and a VTuber.
So, this entire video is going to be me trying to convince you to say yes.
Alright, Evan, I will not be your date.
Wait, no, I'm not. No, I don't want to go on a date with you.
You've asked me before.
No, that's not it. That's not it. No,
cringe.
I don't want to go on a date with you, I swear to God.
And they just find each other, they meet in the middle, and even though they're technically not in the same like VTuber community, they're just both Twitch streamers, I feel like their interactions are so much fun because I feel like when one person is IRL and the other person is a VTuber, there's just another layer of intrigue. The interactions between VTubers and FleshTubers are honestly some of my favorite. There's plenty of examples. The most popular, of course, is Connor and Mousy.
Wait, what was your good idea?
Okay, I realized I could just do this.
What the? Hey! I can't look around right now!
I don't want to break anything though, so
You're
I won't.
so lucky I'm trapped in here.
And then of course you've got like Nags and Chibi.
Chat, can you hear his Italian voice?
Bobbity boobity!
Never mind, I had my headphone ear thing down below.
You can hear me good? We're good?
Yeah, hello.
How are you? Is this good? Okay, I'm sorry, no more. We're even.
They're so much fun. I especially like seeing Nags collab with VTubers just because Nags has no idea what's going on. He's not really a weeb, like he's a sports fan for God's sakes.
Yo, can we just put Nags' nose just censored with Nags'
Wow! Why?
Have you seen that picture of Nags like gasming as in cosplay? You should use that as a censor.
Yeah, editor, can you just cut his face out and
Editor,
put it over stuff?
don't! Not my face!
Put him on a Stolfo.
Yo, editor, can we get a little animation of Nags emerging from the opening?
Don't do that!
You know what I mean? He has no idea what's going on, and he spends half of his collab just fucking panicking and screaming. It's great. I love him. Another type of VTuber that you see are, for some reason, VTubers that do like video essays or editorials or whatever are almost always like floating PNGs, and they might get a VTuber model later. Like Nux started out as a floating PNG. He got a VTuber model later, sure, but he started out as just a PNG.
So, 75,000 likes on this bad boy, and Biggest Flexes in Anime 8 will be out within a week. So leave a like and shiz.
The way this is going to work is simple. You will each need to come up with 10 things that you could find in your own browser history. And those will be competing against each other to see which has the most entries on Rule 34.
They have a PNG that kind of just floats around, or they flick between a couple of different pre-drawn images while they splice that between themselves and then images of whatever it is that they're talking about. And they make some really interesting content. And sometimes it's about VTubers, sometimes it's about anime or whatever, anything in that sort of entertainment sphere. And I watch a lot of these types of videos just because I kind of like the editing style. A faceless YouTuber who's constantly just showing random clips and B-roll and whatever, that's fine. That can be an entertaining video. But I feel like just giving yourself an avatar, even if it's just a 2D PNG, just adds a level of personality that otherwise wouldn't be there. Even someone like Depressed Nosagi, even though he's kind of monotone, there's still a level of passion there that I don't always hear when it's someone who's just a blanket, faceless YouTuber talking over B-roll.
There's a problem in the VTuber rabbit hole that's been left unanswered and unsolved since its inception. A gaping hole so wide nobody wants to fix it. And if your guess is either tribalism, parasocialism, idol culture, or schizos on VT, then I apologize that your smooth brain cannot comprehend the scale of the true elephant in the room. I don't know if I used that analogy right, but my point is you're a fucking idiot. Because the actual problem is the lack of good VTuber animated hentai.
Early Nuxtaku, Depressed Nausagi, I love listening to them talk about things in the anime and VTuber community. Now as we kind of expand away from more traditional VTubers, like we talked about VTubers, then we talked about PNG tubers, and if you really expand away from the traditional VTuber model, this is where we find like half-tubers. People who stream both as VTubers and IRL. Now, of course, you're probably familiar with K-san.
I use my virtual head and my real body.
What made you do, like, why? What made you decide to do that?
Well, it was not this model. I was using my old model, but I kind of had the same costume as my model that time. So, like, I was wearing it, and then I thought, I want to show this costume to everyone, but I don't want to show my face because I'm too lazy to do my makeup, so...
Oh my god, so you cosplayed as yourself?
Yeah.
But then, of course, you've also got Code Miko. And I feel like Code Miko is probably the most detached from your typical VTuber, not just because she's a half VTuber, half IRL, but because her model isn't the generic anime style. It's not some V-roid like I have. It's like a full, high-definition 3D model. It's very realistic and it's very interesting.
This is what I wear for Komiko. And as you can see, my shorts are written up. But this is the Link suit. It's got trackers. It can, track my movement.
And she does a lot of really complex tracking. And I think that's really cool. But most other half-tubers are almost always people like Lost Paws, because he was an IRL streamer already, but when the VTubing boom took off, he got himself a VTuber model.
This video is so noble, you don't know how much noble you're even nobling into.
And I see a lot of people do this, and I feel like they don't really feel like VTubers so much, because we already know who they are. We already know what their face looks like. They just are a normal content creator who went and got a model because it was trendy. Even people who weren't part of that like first wave of VTubers can see the appeal of having an avatar. While we're on the topic of half-tubers, that kind of leads me into VR chat Twitch streamers. I don't necessarily feel like they 100% fit in the traditional VTuber mold, because they're not using VC Face, they're not using VTube Studio, they're not using a Vroid model. They're in VR chat. That's their avatar. But they're not just, you know, a talking head like I am, or most VTubers are, at the end of the day, just a talking head. But they've got like full 3D tracking, and they're wandering around this full 3D world, and it's a totally different experience, and they're doing totally different things. They're almost always talking to other people. When it's just them, they're usually walking around, interacting with the VR world. My personal favorite when it comes to VR chat VTubers is probably Fillion, because she is constantly doing flips and constantly falling over. And I don't know why it's so funny to watch an anime girl absolutely eat shit and fall over 100 times in a row, but it is. It never gets old. I love Fillion.
Backflip? I'll do the backflip right here. Feast your eyes upon the greatest backflip you're ever gonna witness in your entire life. Perfect! Here we are.
And I really do feel like this sort of VR chat avatar is kind of a whole different beast from the traditional VTuber model, especially when you get to like people who are not just VR chat VTubers, but they're also half-tubers. A good example is Chris Quits Reality.
Yeah.
Check this out.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Like, sure, he's wandering around with a 3D model, but he's using a different model almost every time. You see his face for half the video. Like, sure, by technical definition, you can lump him into the community, but he's very much doing his own thing. But that's why this is an iceberg. There's like a huge spectrum. Now, a much smaller niche when it comes to VTubers is Newstubers. There really aren't too many. You've got people like Flamenco.
If you were to draw these characters on model with how they're portrayed in their respective media, engaging in sexual acts, one is a little bit more sus than the other, and it's not the older one.
Secondly, the breasts are just, if not better, visually to the rear end. Yes, they both have a striking similarity on the surface, however, boobs possess one key feature that the ass does not, the nipplets. Yes, they are just as thick, just as ravishing, and just as confounding as the ass. But ass are just nippleless boobs, and no matter how much you toss and turn in your bed trying to deny this, it's a fact and you need to deal with it.
Hell, even Turkey Tom has covered VTubers before.
It became so well known amongst the media that the two streamers were even discussed in a parliament meeting between Chinese and Japanese officials.
People covering events in the VTuber community is there's another layer of separation. They're not participating in, you know, the entertainment and the comedy and the sort of general content creator vibe. They're taking other content creators and making content about them. There's a layer of separation there. They're not fully invested in being a VTuber themselves. Their content is about VTubers. And that's why I feel like Newstubers are on the edges of the VTuber iceberg. Now, in the VTuber community, we usually see people focused on entertainment, playing Stray, playing Minecraft, bringing VTubers together and doing challenges like Nux. There's a lot of fun to be had in this community, and that's usually the focus. And I would say 99% of VTubers, that is the whole point, is to make entertainment first. But there's a sort of subgenre of VTubers who, instead of either making their own entertainment content or making content based on the community, they decide to use a VTuber or PNG tuber avatar, but other than that have very little to do with the VTuber community, and instead make pseudo-political or sometimes outright political, like culture war type of content. Now, this is not stuff that I subscribe to. There's still PNG tubers, there's still VTubers, they're still part of the community, so they're still worth talking about. But this particular genre, I am not a fan of. You know, you've got It's a Gundam here. He's anti-woke, he's anti-virtue signaling, he's pro-Elon Musk. His content is mostly culture war, political, etc., etc. You can tell by a cursory glance at his page. It's obviously got a conservative leaning. And there's nothing wrong with making conservative content, but by using an avatar, it puts you in the VTuber community. But there's a lot of people who use an avatar, but really aren't necessarily part of the entertainment machine that the rest of us are. And it's not just It's a Gundam, and it's not just conservative-leaning VTubers or PNG tubers who do this. There's, of course, unsurprisingly, a more liberal edge to it as well. You've got Republicans, LGBT, transphobia, blah, 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 blah. There is political, pseudo-political culture war content on both sides. But here's my problem. You've got like news and politics in its own kind of bubble. I don't see the point of trying to be in our bubble when your primary concern is not our community and our culture, it's the real world. In my opinion, and you're free to disagree with this opinion, you know, VTubing should be an escape from the constant culture war and the news cycle and the usual blah blah and the usual bullshit. You can have whatever political leaning you like, but I don't personally see much of a point in bringing that over here. You know what I'm saying? If you like this type of content, there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like this is more fringe. Let me know in the comments, should they be talking about politics or should they be tripping robots and Stray? You know what I mean? What's a more valuable use of our time in this community? I'll let you decide. Now, at the very, very bottom of the VTuber iceberg, you've got Twitch affiliates. You've got these tiny indie VTubers. They're serious enough about being a VTuber and successful enough. They've made it to Twitch affiliate. They've got 3 live viewers. They've got 50 followers. They're making it. They're trying to be a part of the community, but they're not even Twitch partner yet. There's so many people who are kind of stuck at Twitch affiliate who I feel like could absolutely rock it up to being a big, recognizable indie VTuber if given the chance. There's so many people who are in that bracket that haven't reached partner yet. I have like several hundred people I could recommend. I'll just say the names of Abdog.
God, is that you? Who put poop in the water?
Jazz.
Come down here. Launch me up there. I have an idea.
Okay.
Woo!
Sora.
Super stuffed up milkies. What? No! I didn't mean to read that! Ugh.
What did you just read?
Nothing.
Can you say that out loud one more time?
Nope.
There's so many names that I could shout out here, but then I'd be here for 15 minutes. There are a lot of people who are very small that are absolutely worth your time if you just give them a chance. So if you only ever watch the big VTubers, highly recommend finding some smaller indies. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is there a category of VTuber that I didn't cover? Do you feel like certain categories I mentioned shouldn't be part of this iceberg? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching. Bye, guys!